Hi there, welcome to the Movement Clinic. My name is Emily and I'm going to be taking you through a practice focused on the low back. So creating a little bit of strength there, a little bit of length, but overall aiding towards creating a sense of spaciousness in the low back, this part of our bodies that tends to be a little cranky. So for today's practice, I highly recommend that you have a yoga strap or a dog leash or a belt, maybe even a hand towel, something like that to help you in today's practice. As you can see, I'm sitting on a block here. Maybe grab a block, maybe a blanket to pad your knees, or a beach towel or bath towel or anything like that if you so choose. And let's go ahead and get started with today's practice. So to start, we're gonna come to hands and knees. No, sorry, we're gonna come to a seat. However you'd like to find a comfortable seat. I like to sit on a block to elevate my hips. As you can see, it helps my shins and knees to contact the mat a little bit easier, feels a little bit more supported. Also, it helps me to find the natural curve in my low back without force, okay? So go ahead and shift side to side. So you feel that you're sitting on the sit bones, maybe even kind of at the front of the sit bones, closer to your thighs. Go ahead and place the L space of your thumb and forefingers around your low waist, just above your bony hip crest. Soften your shoulders down your back, away from your ears. Close your eyes. And just take a few rounds of breath in and out of the nose, creating smoother, longer inhales and exhales. Bring your awareness to the space where your kind of webbing between your thumb and your forefinger is resting. Good. And with your next inhale, narrow that space as though someone were cinching a belt or a corset there. And notice if you get taller through the crown of your head. Exhale, keep that length and simply soften the effort. Good. And then again, inhale, narrow the waist in between your hands. Notice that belting up feeling. Keep that. And simply soften the ribs, shoulders. So allow the breath to release out of every other part of the body except that waist. Let's do this again. Inhale, narrow, lengthen those ribs away from those hips. Keep the length. Exhale, figure out how to soften. Good. Now release your hands, keep the narrowing of the waist, and then notice the muscles underneath your belly button. And imagine you are kind of fitting yourself into some jeans and someone was zipping the low belly into the jeans. So the sensation of belting it up and zipping it up. This is going to be our foundation for supporting the low back as we practice, okay? So if you're a little bit fatigued with that effort, you can go ahead and soften for a moment. Place your hands on your thighs. But keep that awareness around that low waist. With our next inhale, belt it up, narrow the waist. As you exhale, zip it up. Keep that and reach your arms overhead. Release your left hand or fingertips outside of the left hip and reach your right arm up and overhead. Palm is going to face down and see if you can turn that lifted armpit to face your chin. So you'll feel your shoulder blade widen across the back. Maybe even feel a sense of spaciousness in the neck. Right sit bone stays rooted and we're lifting up and out of the low right waist as though we could lengthen our ribs out of our hips and breathe into that top lung as though you could spread the right ribs like fish gills. With that belted and zipped up waist, inhale, reach up. Other side, exhale, right hand down. Left arm reaches up and overhead again. Armpit turns to face the chin, palm faces down. Root down through the left sit bone. And lengthen out of the low left waist. Again, breathing into these upper ribs as though you could expand them. Like gills. Inhale, lengthen up, narrow the waist. Good. This time, exhale, left hand with that C grip or that L space around that low waist and lift up and over your left hand as you reach the right hand up and overhead. Watch where that armpit is facing. Keep spaciousness in the neck. Good. Inhale, reach up, lengthen, create space. Right hand, again, wraps around the low waist. Lift up and over the right hand as the left arm reaches up and overhead. Good. Inhale, reach up. Good. Exhale, release your hands down. Good. Now, left arm reaches out in front of you, palm faces in. An arm by the ear. Simply bend the elbow and release your hand behind your head or maybe behind the neck, at the base of the neck, wherever is comfortable for you. Right hand reaches out to the right. Simply turn your palm to face behind you, bend the elbow, and rest the back of your right hand into your back. And now press both hands into the back without collapsing. So you see I'm reaching my heart forward, drawing my ears back, and press your hands into your back. Inhale to release and switch. So right arm reaches up, bend the right elbow, press into the base of the neck or the back of the head, whatever's accessible. Left hand spins back, back of the left hand presses into your back. Lengthen, narrow the waist, press the back of the head into your forearm or your hand, and as you press both hands into the back of your body. And slowly release. Good. We're going to make our way to hands and knees, all fours. You can get rid of that block if you would like. Actually, you probably should get rid of it because we don't really need it right now. So find your way to tabletop. Plant your palms underneath your armpits, knees underneath your bony hip points. And start to make some nice big hip circles as though your hips were moving around the center of the clock that is your knees. The further left and right you move your hips, think about 3 and 9, the more you feel it in those outer hips. And then pause, come back to center. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. I like to have my toes tucked under here. And remember, belt up the waist, zip it up, and stretch the crown of the head and the bones behind the ears forward towards the top of your mat. Keep that. Inhale, right heel to the sky for bird dog. Or the beginning of bird dog, rather. So press your right inner heel back and flex all 5 toes down to the mat. Press away through your hands and maybe inhale your left arm out in front of you. Take another breath here. Inhale, lengthen front to back. And exhale, release. Knee down, palm down. Belt it up, zip it up, lengthen forward through the crown of the head and left foot behind you. All 5 toes pointing straight down. Don't worry about getting the heel higher than the hips because as you see, everything dumps forward in my belly. So really focus on heel in line with the hips, all 5 toes pointing straight down and keeping that support in the low belly being belted and zipped up. And then if you would like here, reach your right arm out in front of you. Inhale, lengthen front to back. Good, exhale, slowly release that effort. All right, again, inhale, lengthen. Right foot out behind you. Feel the cinching, zipping. Left arm reaches out in front of you. Good. As we exhale, bend the elbow, bend the knee. Knee to the right, elbow to the left. Inhale, lengthens us out. Exhale, bent elbow, bent knee, awkward airplane, side to side. Inhale, lengthen front to back. Exhale, bent elbow, bent knee. Good. Inhale, lengthen front to back. And exhale, release. Knee down, palm down. Same thing, other side. Inhale, left heel behind you, right arm out in front. Lengthen front to back with that inhale. Exhale, bend elbow, bend knee. Awkward airplane. Inhale, lengthen out. Exhale, bent elbow, bent knee. I guess this is like a broken, awkward airplane. Inhale, lengthen front to back. Exhale, bend elbow, bend knee. Awkward airplane. Inhale, lengthen front to back. Exhale, slowly release. Notice if you feel it in those outer hips, and if you do, maybe start to make some nice circles. Good. Come back to center, slowly pause. We're going to do that same idea, but adding on. So, inhale, right heel back, left arm front. Exhale, awkward airplane. Inhale to lengthen. This time, bend elbow and knee to tap underneath your belly as you round. Inhale, lengthen out. Awkward airplane, side to side. Inhale, lengthen out. Exhale, knee to elbow. We're going to do that one more time. Inhale, lengthen out. Exhale, bend knee, bend elbow, awkward airplane. Inhale, lengthen out. And tap knee to elbow, round the back. Inhale, lengthen out. And slowly release. Hand and knee back to the mat. Same thing, other side. Continue to find this awareness of belting up and zipping up. Support this low back. Inhale, lengthen front to back. Exhale, awkward airplane. Inhale, lengthen out. Knee to elbow tap, round. Inhale, lengthen out. Exhale, awkward airplane. Broken style. Inhale, lengthen out. Knee to elbow. Coming into our last round, you can do it. Inhale, lengthen out. Awkward airplane. Inhale, lengthen out. Tap knee to elbow, round that back. Inhale, lengthen out. And exhale, plant your palm and knee. Untuck your toes if they're tucked and start to make those nice big hip circles again. Maybe reverse the direction of your circles. And go ahead and pause back at center. So we're going to start with the left foot this time for no other reason than why not mix it up. But also I'm not quite ready to show you my backside first thing. So, gate pose. Bring your left foot behind you, but tuck your toes under, plant the ball of the foot. Leave it there. Now spin your right toes out to the right any amount like a kickstand. Press down into your right hand and slowly begin to roll the hips open so you can plant the heel of your left foot. Now, zip up the low belly, cinch up the waist, and draw that upper hip up as though someone had a string attached to your bony hip point and was lifting it up to the sky. And you'll notice that this bottom waist is cinched up and clinched up. Keep that. And reach your right or left hand to the sky, excuse me. So really pressing away through this right hand. If this isn't comfortable for you for any reason, you can also place the hand behind your head, just like we did in the Gomukhasana arms, and press the back of your head into your hand to help lift the heart. So whichever variation is comfortable for you for that lifted hand. Now, press away through that bottom palm. Turn your top hand to face the top of the mat and reach up and overhead if indeed the hand is free, okay? If you have a long arm here. Now, inhale, lengthen out here. As you exhale, reach the fingertips up overhead or the elbow and float that back foot. Use the low waist to squeeze. Your inhale is going to lengthen you out. Tap the foot, fingertips reach forward. Exhale, draw the low waist in, squeeze, and reach the fingertips up. Inhale to lengthen out. Back foot and leg are strong. Exhale, squeeze. Inhale to lengthen out. Keep the back foot there on the mat and maybe start to roll out the arm a little bit. In these nice big, I call them rock star circles. Good. And let's do the other side. So go ahead and come back to your tabletop to transition to the other side. And now you'll get a nice view of my backside. You're welcome. Right toes go behind you. We're gonna press down into your left palm. Left toes spin out to the left like a kickstand. And as you roll that right hip open, plant your back heel. Zip up the low belly. You'll see here that to help do that, you see that my glutes are engaging as though I'm rounding my low back, zipping up my low belly, and lifting that imaginary string attached to my hip up, 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 up. And then again, this top hand can be here. It can be here. Worry less about the shape that I'm making, or anybody else for that matter, and think more about what's possible for you and your body today. It changes every single day. Good. Flip that front palm to face the top of the mat. Reach up and overhead if indeed you have a long arm, or the elbow might be here and you might just think about reaching the elbow. Any amount towards the top of the mat. Good. Take another inhale here. We're going to find that float. Exhale, float the foot, squeeze that waist, and reach up. Inhale to lengthen out. Float the foot using this low waist coming together. Reach up. Inhale, lengthen forward. Good. Exhale to squeeze. Good. Inhale to lengthen forward. And slowly come back to hands and knees. Good, we're gonna do that same thing again, but this time we're adding on and adding a little bit more difficulty. Of course, you can always stay with the original version if that's where your challenge is today, okay? So left toes move behind you, right toes spin out to the right, find your gate pose. Again, zipping up the belly to help send the hip bones forward and up and in. Plant the back heel, position your top arm however you would like. Now, the idea here might be is that you start to get the weight light on that bottom hand by really using this low side waist. Root down through the outer edge of the back foot for stability here as well. You might even find that you float the fingertips entirely. If you are, go ahead and make some tiny little pulses here. So you might touch your fingertips back down and gently lift up, tap down, lift up. Good. You might really feel that low waist firing up. And pause. Slowly plant that hand back down. Turn your top hand to face the front of the mat. Reach up and overhead. Really breathe into these top fish gills. Lengthen out of the low waist. It's as though you could lengthen your top pinky finger out of your back pinky toe. Or if your hand is here, lengthen your elbow out of your pinky toe. Good. And let's do the same thing with the other side. Gaze at the mat. Exhale, plant your left hand and left knee back down to tabletop. And prepare for the other side. Right toes move behind you. Left toes out to the left. Plant that right heel. Again, zip up the belly. Use those glutes to help send those bony hip points forward, but the low belly lifts them up and in towards the belly button. Find your variation with your top lifted hand wherever you are. Root down through that back foot. Really begin to focus on this waist, drawing the low belly in, absorbing those ribs as you float to fingertips. Maybe float all the way up. Ooh, this side's a little harder for me. And maybe find those little pulses. And these are tiny pulses, maybe a few centimeters, maybe an inch, depending on where you are in the world. And this is my shaky, shaky, shaky side. So if you have those tremors of truth, embrace them, love them. Resisting gravity is hard work. And go ahead and release the effort. Slowly plant your left hand back down on your mat. Flip your right hand to face the front of the mat. Reach up and overhead. Again, lengthen that lifted pinky finger out of the back pinky toe or elbow, whatever shape that you're making with this hand and arm. Good. And slowly release. Untuck your toes, sink your hips to your heels for a quick child's pose. Send your knees as wide as you would like or as narrow as you would like. About 3 rounds of breath here. Notice any sensations in that low back, any warmth, tingles, or maybe you feel it more in your glutes or down your legs. Just embrace whatever's happening. And slowly shift forward, hands and knees. Very briefly, okay, we're gonna come into sort of a shark fin puppy pose. So come onto your forearms. Palms are gonna face one another. And again, even here, notice where your armpits are. So see if you can press down through your forearms and elbows and turn your armpits in to face one another. And I know that's an odd thing to think about, and it's a very small movement. But you'll notice here, if I'm not doing that, that maybe my armpits just kind of flare out a little bit. But when I do that, press down through my forearms and gently turn my armpits to face one another, that there's a little bit of that broadening across my upper back and a hollowing sensation in my armpits. And now from here, sink your hips towards your heels. Soften your forehead to the mat. And if this feels like enough for you, you can stay or bend your elbows and bring your thumbs behind the base of your neck. And the more you reach forward through your elbows, you might even walk your elbows forward and press them down. Imagine you could lengthen your hips away from your elbows. Notice where you feel this in your body. Everyone's different. And slowly release, lengthen out the arms, lift your forehead, shift your hips forward, separate the hands and plant your palms to come into your first down dog of class. Before you do, press away through the L space of those thumb and forefingers. Turn the armpits in towards one another, really rounding the back and separating the shoulder blades from one another. With toes tucked under, zip it up and belt it up. And then send your hips up and back, down dog. If you'd like, you can walk the feet out, bend one knee and then the other. Take about 3 rounds of breath and stillness. And with your next inhale, gaze forward. And exhale, step your feet to meet your hands to fold forward at the top of the mat. Feet hip width distance. Bend your knees as much as you need to for this to feel good on the low back. So less about having long legs and a rounded back and much more about having a long back here first. So imagine that your belly and your ribs could stay in contact with your thighs. Now bend your knees even more generously from the pit of the belly. Roll up to rise. And roll out those shoulders as you lift your gaze. Wonderful. Now, go ahead and grab your blocks. If you have them. If you don't worry about it, okay? You can grab a couple stacks of books or block-like things, or maybe a couple of big books about this size. But again, if you don't have anything accessible, it's really not an issue, okay? We can always keep working on our practice. So I have my blocks sort of in the middle of my mat and my big toes framing my blocks for a little bit of a wider stance. As you inhale, reach up. Exhale, bend your knees, fold forward, keep lengthening the spine. Again, belting and zipping as you fold forward. Hands meet blocks if you have them. Inhale, find a halfway lift, spine parallel to the earth. Bend your knees generously. Float your left foot up and back. For a high lunge position to start, walk your blocks back if you have them underneath your shoulders, and go ahead and soften your back knee to the mat. And if you need a blanket to pad your knee, go ahead and find it. With those back toes tucked under, imagine that you could squeeze your shin bones in towards one another. Keep that. Lift the low belly. You'll notice that my sit bones are descending down. And I'm going to go ahead and reach up. Now here, keep the pelvis in neutral, right hand on your right waist, and reach up and overhead with the left hand. So now here it's as though you could lengthen your left pinky finger out of your left outer knee. And you might even move that right hand to the right waist, that same kind of L space grip that we found before, so that you can imagine that you're lifting up and over that right hand. So we're still imagining that there's length in both of the low waists. Good. Take another breath here. Good. Inhale, reach up. And left fingertips down. And right fingertips reach up and overhead. If you need a little bit more height, you might find something underneath that left hand. And with an inhale, using that right side low waist and zipping up the low belly, we're going to lift up. Good. Exhale, plant your palms or fingertips on blocks or mat. Shift your hips back and find sort of a half splits. Flex your right toes back towards your face. Belly again, narrow and zipped up. Lengthen the crown of the head forward as you soften your hips back. And that front leg is long in any way that long looks on your body. And long and straight might look pretty bent, and that's fine. Now, allow your right pinky toes to roll out to the right and walk your hands and your heart over the right thigh. Notice where you feel this. Inhale to come back through center. Plant your palms or fingertips inside of that left foot. Tuck your right toes under. Step your right foot wide for that wide-legged forward fold. Hands can find blocks again. Inhale, lift halfway. Bend both knees, float the right foot up and back. Soften right knee to mat. Squeeze those shin bones in towards one another. Draw the low belly up and in. Curl the sit bones underneath you to rise up. Neutral pelvis here again. Left hand grabs that waist as right hand reaches up and overhead, and you're lifting up and over your left thumb and forefinger. Lifted pinky finger is lengthening out of your left knee. Good. With our next inhale, we reach up. Exhale, right hand down somewhere, and left arm reaches up and overhead. Keep that neutral pelvis. And again, use your inhale and the strong use of that low core to lift you up. Exhale, plant fingertips or palms on blocks or mat. Press the front leg straight. Flex all 5 of your left toes back towards your face. Again, acknowledge what straight looks like for you. Lengthen the ears out of the hips. Keep lengthening the spine. I so often see people just collapse here to try to get closer to their knee, and you're not really doing yourself any favors. We want to close the gap between our ribs and our low waist and our thigh. So even if that means in order to do that, the knee is bent and you're here and you simply start to shift the hips back to keep that connection, do that. And again, we roll left toes out to the left. Keep flexing the left toes back towards your face. Walk hands and chest over the left leg. We're still lengthening and closing this gap here. Even if the knee is really bent, keep closing that gap. Good, and inhale back to center. Move your block, whichever one you have, to the right side of the mat and the other one out of the way. Plant your palms, tuck your back toes, step back, down dog. Again, pedal it out. And notice how this down dog feels a little different than the first one, if it indeed does feel different. Maybe it feels just about the same. Again, even if the knees are bent, find length in that spine first. In fact, default to lengthen the spine over lengthen the back of the legs. So if you have to round the spine to get the legs straight, don't. Bend the knees, lengthen your hips out of your ears and your armpits. And then if you can keep all of this length and engagement in the front of the core, those low ribs in, the zipping up and the belting in, then maybe start to lengthen the heels down to the mat without sacrificing any of that. Good. Now step the feet together at the back of the mat, big toes touch. Gaze forward between your thumbs. Inhale your right heel to the sky. Exhale, step your foot between your thumbs. Plant your back heel. Make sure your feet are in one line-ish. And then just like we did in our gate pose, really root down through the outer edge of that back foot. Grab your block, place it outside of your right ankle, underneath your right shoulder. And again, spiral and lift this hip to the sky. Lengthen up through those top fingertips, and from here, simply press your front leg straight for a sort of triangle pose. Now, if you're way up here, wonderful, we're going there anyway. So everybody, use this top low waist, squeeze to lift, zip up the belly, absorb the low ribs, lengthen the ears and the crown of the head out of your hips even here. And now with this nice float you have, even if this top hand is here or here, begin to find those little pulses. And notice how hard it is just to resist gravity with your own body weight. Notice if you're annoyed with me right now. Good. Go ahead and pause. Plant your palm or fingertips back on your block if you have it, or simply keep up the work, but press the back of your hand into your shin to spiral and lift your heart to the sky a little bit more. Turn your top hand to face the front of the room and reach up and overhead. So very similar shape, just like our gate pose, but now this front foot is planted and long. We're again lengthening our pinky finger and pinky toe away from each other. Gaze down at that front foot. Upper body stays just as it is. Simply bend your front knee, side angle pose. Press your knee into your forearm or your arm, and press the arm back into the leg. And go ahead, exhale, release. Lift the back heel, plant your left palm, move your block over to the left side. So it's there to help you if you need it. Press down into the hand, float that front foot back, down dog. Give a little wiggle. And pause. Step the feet together, big toes touch at the back of the mat, gaze forward. Inhale, left heel to the sky. Exhale, step your left foot between your thumbs, or help it there. This is just as effective if you grab the ankle and help it forward with the same hand, okay? Again, plant the back foot, root down through the outer edge of the right foot, grab that block if you have one, place it outside of the left heel. And again, by the power of drawing the low belly up and in, curling the sit bones under, and then rolling that top hip open, you find that the shoulders might stack, that imaginary string pulling you up. Maybe even here, find that push-pull resistance between the front arm and front leg, or the push-push rather resistance. And notice how it lights up this outer hip. Keep that and simply press the front leg straight. Float the bottom hand. Keep those low ribs absorbed. Keep lengthening the bones behind the ears out of these hips, and find those little pulses. And breathe. This is my hard side, so I'm nice and shaky. And I sometimes forget to breathe. Good, go ahead and pause. Soften that hand back down on your block or mat, or again, pressing the hand, the back of the hand into the shin to spiral the heart up. Turn that top hand to face the front of the mat. Reach up and overhead. Gaze down at that front foot and bend the front knee. Side angle. Keep lifting that heart to the sky. Even if the back of the hand is resting on the back of the head, keep pressing the head into the hand. Keep lifting the elbow up to the sky to find that lift of the heart. And slowly release the effort. Plant your right hand, move the block over to the right, because guess what? We're gonna do it again. Plant your left hand, press down, float the front foot back to down dog. Straight back into it. Big toes step together at the back of the mat. Inhale, right heel to the sky, gaze forward. Exhale, close the gap between thigh and low waist as you step the right foot between your thumbs, or help it there. Plant the back heel, block outside of your right heel. And again, find that lift of the low belly, that drawing of that top hip up. Roll that top shoulder open. It's as though the bottom ribs can roll forward and the top ribs roll back. Lengthen ears out of hips to start. Press the thigh and the arm into one another. Feel the outer front hip wake up. Keep that and press the front leg straight, or straight-ish. With that low belly zipped up, using that low waist, float the hand and find those little pulses. And breathe for 3, 2, 1. Pause. If you can keep the float, great. Reach up and overhead. And gaze down at the front of your mat. I already am, because that gaze is nicer on my neck here. Bend that front knee, side angle pose. Slowly release left hand back down to the mat. Lift the back heel, move your block over to the left. Plant your palms, press down, float your right foot back to down dog. Big toes touch at the back of the mat. Gaze forward as you inhale, left heel to the sky. Exhale, step it forward. Woo. Plant that back heel and pause for a second while I fix my little mic setup. Okay, so grab your block, place it outside of that front ankle. Draw that low belly up and in. Pull that top hip up to the sky. Draw the bottom ribs forward as you roll the top ribs back. Arm reaches up and overhead, or hand behind the head. Press arm and knee into one another. Keep that engagement in the outer hip as you slowly press the front leg towards straight. Float those fingertips. Find those nice pulses. Find your breath. Good, and pause. If you can stay here in the float, wonderful. If not, soften fingertips back to the block. I'm going to on this side. Turn your top hand to face the front of the mat. Reach overhead. Gaze wherever it feels nice on the neck. And if you're not already, gaze at the front foot and exhale. Simply bend the front knee, side angle pose. And with your next exhale, right hand comes down, move the block forward. Yay, we'll be done with it. Plant your palms, step back to down dog. Feel free to wiggle the hips side to side. Letting maybe the heels fall more drastically right to left as the toes turn in the opposite direction. And find stillness for a couple more breaths. And how does this down dog feel? Slowly bring your gaze towards your thumbs. Soften your knees to the mat. And take a brief child's pose. Big toes touch, knees close or wide, your pick. Soften forehead to the mat. Good. Plant your palms on either side of your knees or shin bones. Press away to sit up. Good. And find a comfortable seat. If you need the assistance of a block or a blanket, go ahead and grab it. Maybe you just have a pillow handy. Great. I'm going to sit in Virasana back on my heels. Go ahead and grab your strap or your towel, strap-like object. And we're going to let it go long, and first grab it in the left hand. So we're gonna find the Gomukhasana arms that we had in the very beginning of class, this action, okay? But this time, we're gonna use the assistance of the strap to maybe help us find a little bit more of a passive stretch rather than that active pressing and engagement. Although if that felt good to you, feel free to explore that again, okay? But regardless, starting with the left hand, we're gonna reach the left arm out in front of us, up overhead, palm faces in, and bend the elbows so that the strap just releases behind you, like so. I'll show you from the side view to start. And then right arm reaches out to the right, grab the strap with the right hand. You might crawl your fingers closer to one another if that's accessible, but if you're starting to hunch over, reverse, press the head into that forearm, draw the low belly in, cinch the waist, don't lose any of that at any point. And if this is enough for you, stay, or inhale, find lots of length, narrowing through the waist. Reach up through this top left elbow and over to the right. So big length for the lats. Kind of take over our low back sometimes. Frequently very tight. So sometimes it's just hard enough to get our arm up and overhead and grab anything behind our upper back or the base of our neck. Just depends on your body and what's going on. Take another deep round of breath here. Good, draw the low belly in to sit up. Move very slowly away from this. Release the bottom hand first. Let it rest by your side and give it a little shake. Sort of reset. Slowly release the top arm down, give it a little shake, maybe roll out the neck, roll out the shoulders, and then switch. Strap in the right hand. Reach out, up, and bend that elbow, forearm, or palm at the base of the neck or the back of the head, depending on what's accessible for you on this side. Okay? Left arm out to the left, palm turns to face back. Bend the elbow and reach for that strap. This side is much more restricted for me in this bottom arm. It's my dominant arm and hand, so that kind of overuse and some postural tendencies and lifestyle tendencies mean it's just a little more restricted. So not right or wrong or good or bad, but just information for us to move forward in our day with, or for me specifically, but notice what's going on for you. If you find that you're hunching over, kind of slide your hands away from one another, release some effort so that you can sit up nice and tall. Stay here or lengthen up through that right elbow and side bend over to the left. Notice if you're flaring your belly out, zip it up, belt it up. Don't lose that here. And draw the low belly in. Use the low right waist to pull you back up. Gently release the bottom hand. Whew. Give it a little shake. Those nice pinching sensations at the top of the shoulder that are so common. Release that top arm. Give that a little shake. Move your strap out of the way. You are done with it. And go ahead and come to a seat on your butt. Now, if just sitting up tall here is hard for you, grab your blanket. Go ahead and sit on the edge of the blanket. And just like in the beginning of class, if you need to, of course, but regardless, rock side to side until you kind of find that natural curve in the low back, that ability to sit up nice and tall without too much effort. So you have that nice S curve present in the spine that actually is our nice shock absorber that helps us to sit up tall and resist gravity with more ease. Okay. So go ahead and lengthen your right leg out in front of you. Pick up your left foot and cross it over the right thigh. Now, if this isn't accessible, this is fine right here for a twist, okay? If this is accessible, wonderful, go here. Other option is that you can also bend your right knee and bring your heel outside of your left hip, okay? But both sit bones need to stay rooted. So if this left sit bone is kind of lifted up and taken flight from the mat, reverse, okay? Just undo a little bit or unwind a little bit so that you can have this firm base to twist out of, okay? We don't want to take our pelvis with us when we twist or our low back. We're focusing all of the twist in our upper back, maybe even a little bit of our neck as well. So lengthen both arms up. We are going to use our low belly and this front shoulder blade to help us find a twist, okay? So inhale, lengthen. Exhale, draw that low left belly back as you press your right shoulder blade forward. Good. Again, inhale, lengthen. Exhale, draw low left belly back, right shoulder blade presses forward. You notice I'm finding the twist without twisting or torquing or using force with my hands. So that from here, you might just soften your left fingertips behind you and your right elbow in front of or outside of that front thigh. I like to lengthen my arm out so I can press my arm into the thigh to bring it across my body a little bit more so I enjoy an opening in that outer hip. You might also kind of wrap your forearm around the knee. That actually feels really nice to me today, so I'll stay here. With each inhale, lengthen the ears out of the hips. With each exhale, draw that low belly back to support the twist. And inhale, unwind and switch. So lengthen both legs long, maybe give them a little shake in and out. Left leg stays long, bend that right knee, draw your heel in toward your butt. Maybe cross your right foot over your left thigh. Also maybe bend your left knee and swing the heel outside of your right sit bone. Again, if that right sit bone starts to kind of lift up, reverse. Lengthen up through your fingertips, draw your belly in, inhale. Narrow the waist to zip up. Exhale, low right waist draws back powerfully. Left shoulder blade presses forward. Inhale, creates length. Exhale, draw the low right belly back. Press that left shoulder blade forward and land the hands wherever you would like. Either elbow outside of right thigh, just below the knee. Maybe the arm goes long. Maybe forearm around that outer knee. Inhales create length and space. Exhales create just a little more support in that low belly, drawing back and in. And slowly unwind as you inhale. Uncross the legs, give them a little shake in and out. And make your way to your backs. Bend your knees as you lie back. Bring the inner edges of the feet to touch. And as the knees go wide, allow the soles of the feet to connect. Bring your shoulder blades underneath you and down your back. You can go ahead and place your hands on your belly as you close your eyes. Allow your breath to smooth out. Get softer, more passive. And again, tune into any of the sensations that are present in your body now. Maybe soften into the experience itself instead of creating any labels, as we are prone to do. And if you'd like to stay here, you are more than welcome to stay here for your Shavasana, or you might slowly begin to lengthen out one leg and then the other. Hands can stay on your belly or open your arms out to the sides, palms face up. I invite you to stay here, softening deeply into the support of the earth. And do this for as long as you would like, as long as is valuable for you. But I certainly encourage you to do it for as long as possible. Relish in the stillness of this moment. I'll see you next time. Namaste.